I was starting to get attracted to fabric, but I wouldn't allow myself to buy any because I was a polymer clay artist, and I didn't want to let myself start getting a fabric stash. Little by little, I started getting a little stash. Nothing compared, I don't think, to real quilters. It's on 2 shelves, my stash. I have it organized by color. And I think what started it was 2 things. I was starting to get very attracted to the act of putting together little pieces into a bigger piece. So I did a traditional mosaic class. I mosaicked the risers of our staircase. And I loved the act of fitting little pieces together into a whole. Initial ones, the full figure ones, stem out of my love of Project Runway. I was watching Project Runway. I was totally entranced with the idea of being a fashion designer. I'm like, there's no way that's going to happen. But maybe somehow I can do miniature designs on figures and I can let my sense of what the clothing would look like. So that was definitely, that whole first group stems out of Project Runway Wannabe. And so I think I have at least 50 that have been sitting around for at least 2 years or more. It wasn't that I wasn't still excited about the medium, but it just seemed like I was having to always prepare class samples, workshop samples, inventory, and I was finding it really hard to get on a creative path with polymer just by sitting down with polymer clay. But when I looked at these collages, I could see, oh, I could add a polymer clay element, and that was really inspiring to me personally. So that's why I've been referring to it as my sideways approach, my sideways entry into new explorations with polymer clay via the fabric. So I try to start with the face first, so I have some kind of background that represents the color of the face, but that may be split up into pieces too. I don't just do like a solid white face or a solid brown face. They're usually pieced together. And then I try to get the eyes, nose, and mouth done, and I use the edges. I try to use every single scrap that I can. My Scottish nature definitely comes out. If there's a frayed edge, that becomes eyelashes. So I try to get the face done because that's the hardest part for me, the most challenging. And then the rest of it I feel like I can really play, if it's the hat or if it's the figure. And also the full figures, they also have in common that I wasn't good at doing anything that looked at all like arms or hands. Mostly arms and hands. Legs I could put stockings on or something, but arms and hands I couldn't get anything going that didn't look alien. So I cut them out of magazines and I put matte medium on them and they're just sewn on. One summer I worked my way through this book called The Creativity Book by Eric Meisel, and it's set to run the course of a year. You have like a weekly exercise, for lack of a better word, and it's not just for art making, it's for chefs or gardeners or whatever, but it's the way of working towards a big project that you want to do that you're scared of, so to speak. So the book is set out in that for 10 months you think deeply about and you work towards the doing of the project, and for 2 months you're doing the project, along with his help with these exercises. And so I shrunk it down, and instead of doing it once a week, I did a fast track because I needed to get on my way. And the one thing that I highly recommended, it was a really interesting process and not intimidating at all for the most part. But one of the things that really resonated for me, he wanted you to think deeply about kind of an all-encompassing word or phrase that spoke to what your project was about, or, kind of the essence of it. And so, I was in the middle of trying to think deeply about, I'm tired of what I've been doing for 10 years. I want a new look. I want a new way of working. And one thing that became evident in thinking just back on my whole creative life as a ballet dancer, as an actress, before I started a jewelry business, was what really resonates for me is the stories. In ballet, I like the story ballets much better than something abstract, and definitely what resonated for me in the acting world was not the performance at all, but the process of me being able to write a little biography and the exploration of that in rehearsal. And so I thought, well, I think the word that really resonates for me is that I would like my artwork to have a narrative, that it will stem out of a narrative, and it may be a narrative that nobody else. I'm not a writer, so I wouldn't be comfortable showing writing to anyone. Maybe one sentence might work its way into the piece in kind of a mysterious way, or phrase, or it might work itself into the marketing on the hang tag. So I set myself the assignment of writing these. I won't even call them stories. They're probably composed of 10 sentences. It's a short little vignette. My previous way of working was to get inspired by ancient history, and I just didn't want to do that anymore. So for me, it was kind of a pathway of a new way of working, to start with narrative and have that kind of fill up the well for me with images of designs and kind of an emotional context. Well, what would this kind of woman wear? So that group that looks like they are a flower or in the garden or a little bit Frenchy, they all came from writing these stories.
Soon, right?
They will be on Etsy in the early fall.
She's on record, folks.
This is really good because this will make me stay on target. Yeah, I would say I'm close. I'm close to having a body of them to put up there. I need to photograph them. I need to just get them up there.
But you'll be in France for the summer, so you really
Right.
couldn't do it anyway.
Right.
So, okay.